Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Raymond Yeung. Here are tonight's top stories. The Cheung Chau Bun Festival in all its glory is back after 3 years. Police make their biggest cocaine and cannabis seizures this year. And a plane lands safely in South Korea after a passenger tries to open a door in midair. Thousands of people have flocked to Cheung Chau for the island's famous Bun Festival, which was suspended for 3 years because of COVID. Line dancers greeted visitors as they arrived for the festivities, which included a colorful parade. Macy Mock reports.
Ferries were crammed as thousands of people arrived in Cheung Chau on the holiday marking Buddha's birthday to take part in the island's traditional Bun Festival. COVID had prevented the islanders from hosting the colorful attraction for the past 3 years. But with the lifting of social distancing measures earlier this year, the welcome carpet was rolled out today. Still, many visitors wore face masks as a precaution on the baking and overcrowded streets of the outlying island. Arrivals were welcomed by lion dances at the ferry pier and on the streets.
So we just started to see the dancing, but we're looking forward tonight to see them crawl up the Bun Tower. So we've been in Hong Kong for 22 years, but we've never come to Cheung Chau for the Bun Festival, so it's very exciting for us.
Cheung Chau's oldest steam bun bakery did a roaring trade as visitors tried to get their hands on the renowned rice flour buns that contain a sweet filling.
We are in line, apparently at this really famous bao place, waiting to buy some bao and eat. It's great to see all these people out, particularly after COVID. Lots of people today. It's hot, but it's good.
The festival began in ancient times to mark the end of a plague. This year, with COVID tamed, Cheung Chau residents and their guests have an added reason to celebrate.
It's very nice. You see the various races, religions, people are here from different countries. And this is what is great about Hong Kong, about Cheung Chau. And people, they don't feel different. We are all together and we are enjoying and celebrating.
The Bun Festival on Cheung Chau is back for the first time since COVID, but something is very different. The 3 iconic giant bun towers are gone and are replaced by mini replicas. The organizer blamed manpower shortage for the disappointing downgrade. Macy Mock, HKIBC.
Despite the sweltering heat, thousands of people lined the streets of Cheung Chau and jostled for a good view of one of the festival highlights. The floating colors parade did not disappoint, as children dressed as Chinese deities, medics, and company officials delighted onlookers. Here's Macy Mock again.
The Floating Colors Parade, commonly known as Pew Sick, made a grand return on Cheung Chau at around 2 p.m. It was one of the highlights of the Bun Festival and featured children who appeared to be floating. But the stars of the show were actually balancing delicately on stilts. Most years, the parade focuses on themes. This year, the organizers took a dig at transport and utility firms for charging more, with children dressed up as employees of the Sun Ferry and Hong Kong Electric. Some children impersonated medics as Cheung Chau residents paid tribute to medical sector for helping the city recover from COVID. Others featured as Olympic medalists and Chinese deities. The parade is believed to be able to drive away evil spirits. Hours before the procession began, the children selected for various roles had to prepare themselves. The girl said she was impersonating Financial Secretary Paul Chan. Thinking ahead, she concealed a fan behind her back to keep cool when it became too hot.
真係好辛苦啊！大家
Being part of the parade is very exhausting, said this woman who participated 5 times when she was a child. Now it's her daughter's turn, and she passed the torch to her 4-year-old, who was going to be a drummer girl. At midnight tonight, some hardy contestants will rush up a tower to grab as many buns as possible. The bun scramble will bring the curtains down on the Cheung Chau attraction. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
Hong Kong could be sizzling next week as Typhoon Mawar, which hammered Guam a few days ago, approaches Taiwan.
Its outer subsiding air is going to bring very hot weather to southern China, and with the possibility of reaching extremely hot conditions. So the observatory is forecasting a maximum temperature of 34 degrees in the urban areas mid next week, and a couple of degrees or a few degrees higher over the new territories.
Cheng said the intensive heat could trigger thunderstorms. The observatory has urged people to stay hydrated and avoid unnecessary outdoor activities, especially during the afternoon. Police have seized nearly 700 kilos of drugs worth $650 million in the biggest haul of the year so far. Officers raided several storage facilities across the city earlier this week. They confiscated 592 kilos of suspected cocaine and 91 kilos of suspected cannabis. Senior Superintendent Chen Kong-ming of the Narcotics Bureau said a drop in cocaine prices prompted gangs to stockpile large quantities of the drug. To avoid getting caught, the gangs moved the drugs around various storage facilities, Chen added. 4 men aged 25 to 32 were arrested and charged with trafficking dangerous drugs. A woman has been killed in a fire in Sha Tin's biggest public housing estate. The blaze broke out in a flat on the 20th floor of Ching Chun House in Shui Chuno Estate at 10 a.m. Neighbors who noticed black smoke billowing from the flat alerted firefighters. They broke into the apartment, and after putting out the fire, they found the body of a 44-year-old woman under a desk. Firefighters suspect that a careless smoker had set fire to the sofa. A dog inside the flat was rescued unharmed. Overseas, passengers on a domestic flight in South Korea were horrified when a man tried to open a door as the plane was preparing to land in Daegu. The man was arrested when the plane landed safely with the emergency door open. 8 schoolchildren and an adult were taken to hospital because they had problems breathing. The incident happened as the Asiana Airlines aircraft, with 194 people on board, was about to land in Daegu after a flight from Jeju. All the other passengers had their seatbelts fastened at the time. Police in Paris have fired tear gas and pepper spray to disperse protesters who tried to block the annual general meeting of French oil giant Total.
I'm here because I have no other choice if I want to stand this world. What they are doing is really criminal, and we can't let them do this, even if we seem too little, even if we seem just few people. At some point we're going to be massive and we're going to win, and I'm sure we're going to win, but we have no choice to be there every single time they're here.
Hundreds of climate activists accused oil firms of putting profits before people. Police moved in and arrested many demonstrators. Some shareholders have urged Total to speed up cuts in gases that hurt the environment. But the activists want oil companies to do much more to prevent the planet from passing the point of no return. Regular Russian forces have begun taking over positions in Bakhmut after the Wagner private army overran the eastern Ukrainian city. Wagner's millionaire owner, Yevgeny Prigozhin, congratulated his men, praising them for their efforts in the longest and probably bloodiest battle in the Ukrainian conflict. Prigozhin, who has criticized the performance of Russian troops, said his forces had begun withdrawing from the strategic city, which has largely been left in ruins. Moscow says the way is now open for soldiers to make deeper advances. Russia, meanwhile, has released 106 Ukrainian soldiers who were captured during the fighting for control of Bakhmut. Security guards at Heathrow, Britain's biggest airport, have gone on strike to demand better pay and working conditions.
The cost of living crisis is currently in our members even harder, and then the cost of living crisis itself. The economy is so volatile at the moment. The real cost of living is still exorbitant, and our members are still struggling financially for it.
Security guards rallied in London, saying they are finding it hard to survive as the price of food and fuel soars. The three-day strike began yesterday, ahead of a long weekend which includes a bank holiday on Monday. While flights are not expected to be affected, some passengers are concerned about security. A man has been arrested in London after a car crashed into the gates of Downing Street, where the Prime Minister lives. The incident is not being treated as terror-related, and no one was injured. Police say the man was detained on suspicion of criminal damage and dangerous driving. Officers searched the car and took away a mobile phone. The crash caused little damage, and the area returned to normal after parts were briefly cordoned off. Police in Japan have arrested a man on suspicion of killing 4 people in a rare shooting and stabbing incident. The suspect was detained after a 12-hour standoff with officers in Nagano Prefecture, about 200 kilometers west of Tokyo. The 31-year-old suspect was reportedly dressed in camouflage and armed with a hunting rifle. He is alleged to have killed 2 women in his father's house. 2 officers who answered a distress call were shot dead when they arrived. The suspect's mother, who was in the house, managed to escape. Finally, the weather forecast. Isolated showers on an otherwise sunny day tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 27 and 32 degrees. Brace for a heat wave next week. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Friday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Raymond Yeung. Good night.